Hi, it's Dave Yarnes with the Kingdom Business Association, and I am honored and blessed to have this man, Darryl Strawberry, with me, and we're going to talk about some incredible things. You want to stay tuned to the end. Hopefully I don't melt down and have to get someone in here to take this interview, because really just iconic sports figure. But, you know, getting in a setting and talking about your faith and your journey, I've been waiting for this. So, you know, first of all, talk to me about the integration of your faith. You know, what does that look like on a personal level for Darryl Strawberry?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And it's great to be here with you, Dave. And, you know, really to talk about what your faith look like, it really has to do with who are you? You know, from day to day when you wake up, and are you focused on worldly things? Or are you focused on kingdom things? I know earthly things are here that we have to do, but I think the mindset has to really be in depth with what the kingdom is really all about, and who are you, and who are you living for?
Yeah. Sooner or later, these things are going to come into conflict, and you're going to have to make a choice. I mean, that's just the way the kingdom works. Like, is this an idol? Is it popping its head above the kingdom, or is it, you know, is in subjection to your faith? You know, a lot of people, executive coaches that I run into, people that our friends are familiar with, they're talking a lot about mental toughness, because there are people that have had opportunity to do things, but it's hard for them to stay focused. It's hard for them to press through. Getting to the level that you were at, I mean, not only a professional athlete, which in itself is elite, but you were at the top of that thing. The pressure must have been amazing. What does mental toughness look like in that situation?
Well, mental toughness is so important that you don't let things distract you. You know, no matter how difficult they may seem to be. Being where I was playing Major League Baseball, and when I talk about the distractions, you know, I'm on the field, so I can't allow, you know, the fans, you know, the booing, the cheering, be a part of who I am when I'm on the field. And I think mentally you have to be tough to block all that out. You know, that's how you learn to completely block that out.
And maybe you step to the plate and you've had a couple of bad at-bats, and, you know, like in business, your mind starts to say, hey, you know, you're not going to make it, and you have to refocus. Is that what it takes at that level?
Well, I always looked at a ball game as you're going to have a couple bad ABs, but the game is still not over. You know, so you always have to remember there's going to come a time in the game, or same thing in business, that the situation is going to arise again. Now, can you produce? You know, when that time comes. And I think a lot of times I was thriving in those situations. I was prepared for things.
Yeah.
Prepared myself for things, even if I was 0 for 2. You know, because there's usually like 4 at-bats in a game. So if you're carrying the first 2 at-bats with you, you're not going to be ready the next 2.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, it's not over till it's over. And that's the same way in life and business and everything else. I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to see a business like we see who we are in every challenge of life, and also in our faith walk. You know, because you have to be able to put that part in too. Our faith is just like, you know, being on the ball field. You know, if I'm confident in myself there, now why I'm not confident in myself in this part of my life?
Yeah, and that negative self-talk, man, you're no good, you're not going to make it, you know, you're hip, whatever that thing that's like your Christian at-bat, you know what I mean? Like you're getting ready to speak to a group of people, and all of a sudden, you know, you get all that negative or self-talk. But I think it is that ability to take, you know, like the scriptures say, take every thought captive. You know, really put that in perspective. So I want to kind of, you know, get down to a lot of businesses, especially in this last season, have faced some difficult challenges, either having to reinvent their business, or, you know, in some instances, you know, things just shut down. I mean, we've had a global pandemic. So you've gone through a couple of times in life where you've really had to reinvent who Darryl Strawberry was and how that works.
Well, that's a good point, because I think what most people don't understand is part of the process of life, you know what I call it? I call it storms, storms of life, you know, and who am I trusting in the midst of the storms of my life? And I think when I was not in my Christian walk, I had nothing to really fall on, you know, and I think in my Christian walk, I fall on the scriptures because the storms are real, you know, and what scriptures do I rely on, you know, when the storms come, like we've had in the season that we have been through, you know, as far as the business and everything has changed.
Yeah.
Well, that's called the storm that you're in. Either you're in a storm or you're coming out of a storm or a storm's on the way.
Encouraging word for you there.
There you go, yeah. And I think about Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it talks about, you know, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And acknowledge him in all your ways, and then he will direct your path. But I think we don't acknowledge him a lot in all our ways.
Yeah.
And we lose sight, and we try to get out of the storm before it's our time to get out.
Yeah.
Because the storm teaches us lessons about life.
Wow.
Either you're gonna grow or you're gonna go.
Wow.
You know, so that's a real choice.
Incredible.
You're gonna go running, or
Yeah.
you're gonna allow it to grow you. You know, even in the midst of business or, you know, professional athlete struggles, slumps.
Yeah.
You know, either you're going to grow through it,
Yeah.
or you're going to go. You're going to run away from it and can't handle it. So I think for me, you know, the storms of life, I allowed myself to learn to grow, and growing pains are really hard,
Yeah.
but they're really good,
Yeah.
because when you get on the other side of them, you look back and you look at who you trusted in.
Wow, that's good. Interestingly enough, the Lord spoke that same scripture to me this weekend at church. So that's a confirmation, because I always have like plan B. Like, Lord, I'm trusting in you with all my heart, but if Tuesday at 5 o'clock it doesn't work out, I'm gonna do my own thing here. You know, like,
I know we all do that, right? That's so funny, you know, because we all have that. You know, well, I'm trusting in you and I'm with you, but, you know, here's something else coming here. Here's the storm. Either, like I said, either you in it or a storm is on the way, or you coming out.
Man, that's incredible. So at that level, especially like, I'm imagining, I don't know what it's like managing the media, managing stuff, but you go from hero to zero, like, depending on like every game, right? I mean, and if you allow yourself, I imagine you could just, you know, lose your identity in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of life. You know, sports is part of life, of going from a hero to a zero, but tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the same thing happens in someone that's in business. They have to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, I may have a bad day. It's okay. You may have a bad week. It's okay.
Yeah.
In baseball, at the same time, but tomorrow or the next day is a new day.
Yeah.
That means I don't give up.
Yeah.
That means I don't quit because
That's
because I'm having a bad couple days. You know, I've had a couple bad days on the field. That doesn't mean the season's over.
Yeah.
See, I think a lot of times what happens is people want to build their foundation in just a couple weeks, couple days. It takes a long.
I know. I confess. That's me. That's me. I want to do that. I
I
want to take a pill and drop 40 pounds before next.
I know. But it takes. What does it really take? It's the process.
Yeah.
You know, can you go through the process?
Yeah.
And in the process, can you learn who you are in the middle of the process?
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens to so many of us. We don't learn about ourselves because we're used to that instant gratification. Fix me now.
Yeah. Or I blame other people. So like the Lord, you know. So I always look at like it's either me, the devil, the Lord.
Yeah.
But who I put the blame on, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure sometimes, Darryl, I've blamed the devil for stuff, and he's like, huh? I wasn't even there. That was all you. You did that one on your own.
Hey, but you know what happens? I think what a lot of times people don't understand, we're always tested by God. Even as strong as we are in our faith, the test has to come. Because you know what has to happen? You have to keep passing the test, because if you don't, you'll think you got it made.
Yeah.
And then when you think you got it made, then when that storm really comes and your house is built on the wrong foundation, the wind will blow it away, because if it's not built on the rock, if it's built on the sand, the wind is going to come and it's going to blow it completely away.
Boy, that's something, because you think about it, because I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think there's this version of Christianity, Darryl, that like if you're doing good and everybody loves you and everything's working out, then you are blessed, you're of God, you're in the right place. But if you are going through tragedy, the wheels are coming off, there's sin in your life, or they're just assuming that, but that is not the gospel, is it?
No, it is not the gospel. The gospel is there to encourage you and help you, even when you're going well, but even in the hard times. Mm-hmm. That's what the good news is really all about. And I think so many people don't understand the fact that just because you have a season where things have been well doesn't mean you're not going to go through some hard seasons.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to walk.
Yeah.
I think people want to run this race. This race is not a race of running fast. This is a walking race. Yeah. Because there are going to be times where the enemy's going to come, and he's always lurking around, and he's going to come and he's going to try to intervene. But when you have a foundation on the Word, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
Huge.
Yeah, and they don't have that solid foundation. So when the attacks do come, it starts to sit on your shoulder and talking to you, and you have lost your way because you don't have this great victory that you think you have, because I think a lot of times people don't know scriptures.
Yeah, or really just, ladies and gentlemen, a biblical worldview, because I don't know if it's been this, I don't mean to judge, but I hear people say, hey, I'm Christian. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to judge, but do you have a biblical worldview? Because then you can say, Lord, I know this is the way, I know this is the truth. I don't line up with it now, but God help me, I want to get there.
Right.
But if you don't have the biblical worldview as your guidepost, it's almost becomes situational with your Christianity, because the Word is kind of that foundation. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's the key for us living the abundant life that he talks about. And remember in John 10:10, what Jesus said, the thief does not come except to steal, kill, and destroy. And then he goes on to say, I have come that they may have life and may have it more abundantly. But do they understand the abundant life that he's talking about? He's talking about peace, joy, wisdom, knowledge. People put stuff in abundant life.
Whew.
And
I know, coming from New York, I do. I'm sorry.
I know, but we all have, and I did too for a very long time until I started understanding that what he was giving me is his great peace that surpasses all understanding, that was going to take me and help me get through these hard times.
Yeah.
Because he knows that the hard times are going to come for all of us. And then that's when we're able to trust and we're able to know that the storm will pass. I just kind of have to ride it out. I have to, buckle down, and I won't have to ride through it. Because none of us, I don't care how successful you are, how much you have, or who you are, none of us get past the storm.
Yeah.
Unless we have to ride through it to get on the other side of it.
Yeah, that's it. I think ultimately the biblical worldview that we're talking about has to have eternity as part of its focus.
Yeah.
Because if it just ends here, then all bets are off. It just grab what you can, I guess. But we know that this life is preparing us for next. And whether you're in business or you're working, that sense of the perfection. I'm thinking of Job, where it says, he knows the way that I take, and when he's tried me, I'll come forth like gold. And I'll be able to carry those treasures into eternity.
Yeah.
That's a cool thought.
That's the best thought when you finally get there.
Yeah.
You have to get there mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You have to get to that place where you know that. And I think a lot of times people carry earthly treasures instead of kingdom treasures. I don't think they think enough of the kingdom, because they look from the earthly things of all that we can see here.
Yeah.
And then when we see this, well, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that. I want this. I want that. I want that. But they're going to be those same people that wanted these earthly things that will miss out on the kingdom things that are far greater than any of these earthly things. Because you remember what the Bible said, heaven and earth gonna pass away, but not my word.
Yeah.
Everything. So that means everything here is gonna pass away.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now I want to make a side point here. It's easy for someone to say that's never been at the top or never had a lot. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know, worldly things are, you know, they're of the devil. I gotta believe that you were in a position to see things, to have things, to live at a position where it just, you know, average Joe would just not comprehend the kind of things that were at your disposal. And to be able to come through that now and say that was empty, I mean, that is like, you know what I mean? Because it takes a certain amount of being there. You know, you kind of got what we call in the business street credit, you know?
Yeah, it is. I know what you mean, because I've been there and done that and saw it. And I know, that's why I know what King Solomon is talking about. When I go to the book of Ecclesiastes, what exactly he's talking about is meaningless under the sun without God.
Yeah. Because
it's all earthly things that can't fill the empty void on the inside of us. We'll keep buying them to try to make it feel good. It's just like buying a new car. Like when I go out and bought another new Mercedes, okay, I ride it for a week, it's still, then it's old.
Yeah.
It plays out.
Yeah.
You know, and you still feel this empty void on the inside. See, wealthy people have a tendency of just buying stuff to continue to buy stuff to try to make them feel better. That's why they continue to buy it, because it doesn't make them feel better. They get it, and then it becomes old, and they need something new, they need something else, they need to try something else. And you see the same thing happening, you know, in the Hollywood industry, you know, where people can't stay married. They hop from this person to that person, a season with this guy, a season with this girl, then I got to get away from her because there's nothing filling them on the inside but the stuff. And the stuff can't satisfy you. It can only satisfy you for a hot second, then it's over. And that's the part Solomon was talking about, that empty part inside of all of us is a place, a hole inside of us only where God feels himself in there, his spirit in there to satisfy our need and who we are and why we were created.
That's powerful. Let me just kind of piggyback on one thing. As I'm thinking that sense of like instant gratification and then the emptiness of it. Can you see that when you're around other young sports players now? I mean, do you see yourself in somebody and say, hey, dude, you know, hey, sir, where you're going isn't where you think you're going? Is that easy for you to detect now with other people?
It's very easy for me to see and know, you know, just like, you know, you're having great success and you're achieving all these great things and you got trophies, championships, you got life, fame, money and stuff, but what's next? You know, what's next for that? Because that will wear off, you know, and what legacy will you leave here? See, a lot of guys don't understand. They're going to try to leave a legacy of what they achieved, but that's only going to last a week when you die, and they're going to stop talking about you.
Yeah, wow.
Because they don't talk about you no more after it's all over.
Yeah.
You know, you may hear them say your name here and there, well, he was this, that, but they won't talk about you. The memory is gone from them. You know, everybody's sad when a tragedy happens or one lose their life, and then after that, you know, everybody goes back to
sobering.
They go back to what they normally are. You know, because the memories of what you achieve from an earthly standpoint, people look at it as gone. But the legacy that you leave for your children as a man, you know, is far greater. As a man of faith, is far greater than anything that I've achieved from an earthly standpoint. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the importance of that, because the legacy of me being a Christian man now is going to have a greater impact on my kid's life than it would me if I had went into the Hall of Fame and died without having Christ in my life.
Yeah. Well, I can't. I don't know if you're sensing it, but I mean, I'm feeling it here in this interview. I do want to ask this. So the sense of, I've watched preachers, business people, They're good at, the $50,000 level. Then they make $100K, they're good. And then somewhere there's a point where either the money becomes too much for them or the fame of the church. And is there a way to teach people? Is there a way to help them? I don't know what your experience was, but I'd heard, man, they just, one day you're here, the next day you're there, and, not a whole lot of training for how to handle this stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not a whole lot of training for handling this stuff, playing professional sports and making millions of dollars, and one day it's there, then the next, along the line somewhere, it's gone, So how do you prepare people for that? You really don't. I think if you don't really have the biblical foundations, of who you are, and what I mean by that, and just like you said, it could happen to ministers too. They get consumed with the hype, and and when I say the hype, because it's so different in these days because of social media and all the outlets, and if they get consumed, that it's them. Now you've went wrong. Now you open the door for the adversary, the enemy. Yeah. You open the door for him to know that God is not really God in your life. Yeah. Because he knows that. Because he knows if you get consumed with all these earthly identities of stuff and brand, why are people looking at themselves to be a brand and Jesus is the greatest brand? Yeah. That's a powerful thought. It really is. You think about that because our society has made us believe that, because people see us on these things now and see us on all kind of outlets that, wow, he's growing, he's this, he's that, he's got influence. If it's not kingdom influence, it's no influence. Mm-hmm. People say, well, this guy's, I don't care what kind of influence they have from a speaking and a coach, if it's not kingdom, you're not having the impact that God's called you to have, because he's called us to have an impact to win souls. Yeah, that ultimately, that's the key, that's the currency. Yeah, that's the whole key right there of victory, is seeing more souls being saved, and are we doing that? Are we delivering that message? And I think a lot of times we get away from that. Let's go down that, because it seems to me like you've come to this conclusion of like, this is where I want my life to go. And as we're talking, you're giving back at a certain. So what does that message look like for Darryl Strawberry when you stand in front of kids or in our situation, business people? And I'm almost thinking of that scene from Scrooge where the guy comes back from the dead and he warns over, But I mean, seriously, coming and saying, hey, these are the things that are important. What does that look like for Darryl Strawberry? What is that message? That message is, I'm giving back what Christ gave to us. He gave himself. Yes. To us on the cross. Whew. At Calvary. Yeah. And then he went to the tomb on early Sunday morning. He got up. So that means when we die from the flesh, we get to be spirit just like Christ. Yes. Now we're resurrected just like Christ. So what does that mean? That means we need to go and give back and love others just like he loved us when we were broken. Yeah. Right? And I think a lot of times a lot of people... Well, I want to just throw money at that or something, right? Because that's a whole lot of yourself and commitment, isn't it? It is. It's a whole lot of yourself. It's denying yourself. Yeah. And what is it? It's, if a man can get rid of his ego, the ego is a 3-letter word, ego, easing God out. If he can get rid of that, then God knows I can use him to do the work, and it could be great because now he walks in such great humility. You remember why Moses was used so mightily by God? Humble. Yeah. Meekness. Yeah. And that's the same thing that God looks for us, is to come. Don't come in here with your boastful pride. I'm Darryl Strawberry. I played with the New York Yankees and New York Mets, Come in here with clarity and understanding that it is not you, it's the great work that he does in us and through us so that we can help somebody else and show somebody else the love that he showed to us. And I just, especially recently, I've been talking with a number of close business people, and just there's tragedy.
at that point in time, I think it's so important that somebody can come and say, you can make it. Because I think when you're at that, you're in that dark valley and all these thoughts are coming, it's critical the voices you hear at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to have been in places like that where people spoke into you, or?
It's just very important to have where people speak life into you, especially when you have everything, like you said, from the business people and athletes where you have everything. And I think we look for people who are just really real, that don't want nothing, that don't have an agenda.
Yeah.
To be able to reach my heart, because I think we get away from the fact, business people get away from the fact that people that really love and care for them, they think, people want what they have. And they really have to understand, a lot of them have to understand, God doesn't need what you have. God brings people around you to lead you, so what you have won't destroy you.
Well, that has to open doors for you. I mean, right? Because I think, as a businessman can sit down, and I think there's a certain reality that they've had 10 people ask them for donations that week, and the only reason the church wants them to be there is to be on the finance committee. But you walk in, and it's got to open that door. Like, man, I don't really need anything from you. I just really want to, talk truth.
It opens the door of, for me, to be able to talk truth about life. I don't need anything. I've had everything from an earthly standpoint. I already know that's not important. I already know that doesn't work. I already know that doesn't belong to me. All these people think because they have everything, it belongs to them. God can take it away just like that if he wants to. That's how good he is. Just like the snap of his finger.
Wow.
He can make everything turn upside down in one day if he really wanted to. What he really looks for, he looks for people who have had great success, and he looks for their heart and to see if they will become kingdom people.
Yeah.
Because that's really what he wants them to be.
Yes.
As kingdom.
Yes.
Because they don't even understand that he will give them more than they had if they build the kingdom for him. And that's what he's looking for. He's looking for business people, athletes like me. He's looking for you to be transformed. He's looking for you to build the kingdom. My job is to go preach the gospel and win souls. A businessman's job is to take your money and put it towards the kingdom of God, so you can see the multitude of people, lives being changed. They don't understand, a lot of business people don't understand the principles because they don't know the word. But, if they ever get into the word and understand the principles, then they'll know how to sow in, because what you sow in, you're not sowing into the church, you're sowing into souls that are going to be won by the church, and God accounts you for that in your bank account of his bank account of seeing you when you come to the kingdom of God.
Wow.
I know it's deep.
It's good, because I think like this conversation, especially as it regards money and things, what my experience has been is that people will criticize the church because the only time they've heard that is because somebody wanted to take an offering. It's not from a sense of, hey, I want to tell you these principles because they're going to work in here, they're going to work outside. You can live victoriously with money, you can live victoriously with things as long as your kingdom focus is first. Because once that slides, it becomes idolatry. And Christ faced that in Matthew 6, where he said, you can't serve God and money. He's holding up these two things. Right. They just can't work together. So let's take someone like yourself. You've got a physical stature, maybe your muscles are developed in a certain way, you've got a visual acuity that gives you a natural propensity, but you never touch that bat, you never touch that ball. Whatever way I'm going to knock it out of the park on you. But I think, it's that sense of using what God has given you. He's given you natural abilities, but the development of it, because if somebody goes saying the Holy Spirit is the helper, he's not the doer.
Right.
It's like I can't put it in neutral and just go, God, why is my life not where it's supposed to be?
Yeah, well, because the developed part of you and the natural ability is there, but the development is for the people that God put in place for you.
Wow.
Do you utilize them
Wow.
to help you develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a great thing about me playing Major League Baseball. The talent was there, but when I saw this coach, my first year, Jim Fry, and he told me to be at the ballpark early every day at 2 o'clock, and I walk in there at 3 o'clock, and then he comes up to me and look at me and says, I'm never going to wait for you again. If I tell you to be here at 2 o'clock, if you want to learn to play at this level and be great, you need to be here at 2 o'clock. I was at that ballpark every day early at 1 o'clock. I go on to win Rookie of the Year because that was my development part.
Amazing.
That is the coach that God puts in people's lives to help them spring forward.
And I think just let's stay on that. So, people don't see that side of Rookie of the Year. I mean, imagine, those high school baseball players saying, "Man, I could have done that. If I would have just had the break, or would have had the." But I think, and with business people too, I think you can be in a position where someone's looking at this empire and they're saying, "Wow, he just fell into it," or something like that. But the thousands of decisions you make to do the right thing.
Right.
Isn't that it? Because everybody wants the silver bullet we talked about. I want the diet pill, I'll lose 40 pounds by tomorrow. I want the one secret. But it's thousands of righteous decisions to do the right thing, to be consistent.
And God puts people there for them, and it's up to them to, have a discerning spirit to understand who God puts in front of them. Not just every Joe Blow. Because every joker could say they're a Christian and come in there, but are they looking at you, or are they looking at you, or are they looking at the kingdom? Are they looking at what you have, or are they looking at the kingdom of God?
Yeah.
So if God's putting you in front of some of these different people and you're giving them, kingdom wisdom, they need to learn to receive that. Because that's just like the coach was giving me great wisdom on how to become better at what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I mean, I had the talent.
You had to take it. And
Yes,
apply it.
I had to be able to have the helper that was there for me. The helper in our life is, of course, the Holy Spirit on our spiritual part of our life, but he's not going to help you through these natural things that's going to come and show you how to get to the next place so you can be better at what you're doing.
I mean, I get it. I've got a library in my house. I've got enough Christian material to save all of China 10 times over. But if it just sits there on the shelf and I don't read it or pray about it, or, in the morning I get up and I'm like, Lord, this word has got to be a foundation in my life. Mm-hmm. But I think every home in America has a Bible. I mean, there's no difference in the resource. It's in the taking and applying it somehow.
Right. It's the taking in and putting it into action.
Yeah.
Because it's two parts of that. I have to be able to take the information from my coach, and then I have to be able to put it in action when I get on the field. So it's the same thing in the business society. You have to be able to take it, and then you have to be able to go and put it into action in your business.
Yeah.
To make yourself, to make yourself a foundation all the way around. I'm talking about when I did that in baseball, it made me a foundation all the way around. And when I did that in my spiritual walk, it gave me the greatest foundation I ever had. I never lose. Wherever you're at, I never lose. You completely win all the time.
That's a powerful statement. And let's take it out like this. If you were looking at that person on the other side of the screen, so you know how it is. You never sure, ladies and gentlemen, you could be watching us, some time from now, or you could be watching us on one of our platforms. But I want to send that word of encouragement to you. Really, that there is something that can pull you through. Darryl, what would you say to the person on the other side of that screen?
I would say if you trust the process and just take it day by day and don't look for the overnight miracle. The process of walking it out is far greater than anything. There's a word called FAT, like F-A-T. A lot of people think I'm talking about a fat person, but I'm not talking about it. It's a fat person. The F means faithful. The second one, A, means accountable. And the third one, the T, means teachable. You got to be faithful, accountable, and teachable to be able to get to the destiny that God has for you.
Thanks for watching us. You can find out more about us with the information on the screen. Find out more about Darryl's ministry, too. We'll put some information on there. Track what he's doing. It's an incredible man of God. Thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.